25,050.55. Just look at that number. On any other day, it's just, well, a figure on a screen, right? But on August 20th, 2025, wow, it became something so much more.
Now, this wasn't just your average closing bell. This was the moment the Nifty 50 absolutely smashed through a huge psychological barrier. I mean, for traders, for investors, for the whole economy, really, crossing that 25,000 mark was this incredibly powerful statement.
So, let's ask the big question. How do we get here? I mean, a milestone like this doesn't just pop up out of thin air. No, this was the grand finale of a really powerful 5-day winning streak for the market.
And you can really see the force behind that momentum right here. Just look at that. The Nifty jumped 563 points in just 5 days. That's a huge move. It really shows you the kind of conviction that was pushing the market, gunning for that 25,000 level.
And you know what's really important here? This wasn't just a handful of big companies doing all the heavy lifting. Nope, this rally was healthy, it was broad-based. We're talking more stocks going up than going down. That's what the pros call positive market breadth, and it's basically a fantastic sign that confidence was spread all across the board.
Okay, but what was actually fueling all this optimism? Because the story of the day was this classic, almost epic tug of war. On one side, you had these incredible domestic hopes, and on the other, some pretty serious global fears.
And this is where you see that battle play out. You had the home team advantage, right? So much excitement about a potential game-changing tax reform and the hope for a huge spending spree before Diwali. But then you had the gathering storm from overseas, a sell-off on Wall Street, anxiety over what the Fed might do, and these looming U.S. tariff threats, a real clash of titans.
Now that domestic optimism, the biggest piece of that puzzle was this super high-stakes meeting about overhauling the goods and services tax, the GST. And let's be clear, we're not talking about some minor tweak here. This was a plan to rethink the entire system from the ground up. And the changes on the table were pretty radical. The big idea was to take this really complex, multi-layered tax system and simplify it way down to just 2 main rates. Now, the market looked at that and basically saw dollar signs. The logic was simple. If you make the system easier and goods get cheaper, you could unleash an absolute tidal wave of consumer spending, especially with the huge Diwali festival season just around the corner. So who exactly was on each end of the rope in this big tug-of-war? Well, to figure that out, you just have to follow the money. And believe me, the data on who was buying and who was selling tells this amazing story of local confidence clashing with global caution. Check this out. The away team, that's the foreign investors, they were clearly rattled by those global fears. They sold off more than 600 crores worth of stock. But then, the home team, our domestic investors, they stepped up to the plate. They didn't just buy up everything the foreigners were selling, they went on to pump in an extra 2,261 crores on top of that. I mean, that is a massive vote of confidence in the India story. And just to be clear, this was not a defensive play. This was a bold, aggressive, forward-looking bet on India's own economic comeback. These domestic funds are literally building what people are now calling the DII support wall, and it's making the whole market a lot tougher and more resilient. Okay, so this whole battle between domestic hope and global fear wasn't just some abstract concept. It had real-world consequences, creating very clear winners and losers out there in the market.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. You can see the day's story written right here. The winners? You've got IT, rallying because valuations look good, and you've got your fast-moving consumer goods, or FMCG, which just soared on all that optimism about the GST reform. And the laggards? Well, you had media getting hammered by some regulatory fears, and the big banks feeling the heat from all that global interest rate anxiety. A perfect snapshot of the day's tug-of-war.
So, when the dust settled, domestic hope definitely won the battle for the day. But the war is far from over. In fact, the market is now staring down a series of major tests that are going to seriously challenge this newfound strength. It's like the market has to run this gauntlet of uncertainty. First up, what will the final decision on the GST reforms actually be? Then, all eyes are going to turn to the U.S. for Jerome Powell's big speech. What's the Fed going to signal? And finally, that tariff deadline is ticking down. Any one of these events could pour rocket fuel on this rally or just stop it dead in its tracks.
And all of this leaves us with the one single massive question on everyone's mind. Can this domestic resilience actually hold up? The Indian market has proven it's got a ton of strength, all powered by its own internal story. But now, as it stares down these huge global tests,
We're all about to find out if that homegrown strength is enough to withstand the storm that's brewing.